Ubisoft used to be one of the biggest gaming companies in the world, with a very respectable catalog of games like Rainbow Six Siege, Far Cry, Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed, what are all considered iconic games by now. But looking at Ubisoft nowadays, it's a shell of the company that it once was, to selling unfinished games, paywalling story content, and not listening to their community. And that is just a small portion of it all. So, let's get right into the video and answer the question, what went wrong with Ubisoft? In 2007, Ubisoft released their first ever Assassin's Creed game on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. It was an immediate success, with reports saying that the game had sold over 8 million copies in just 1 year time on all consoles. With this newfound success, Ubisoft obviously cashed in on it, releasing 9 more Assassin's Creed games in the span of 7 years. And it was not like these games sucked. No, not at all. The graphics were decent, the story was always good, and the mechanics were perfect for a stealth game. Yes, there were some quirky moments here and then, but those things always happen in video games. But overall, it was a very quality series. Because of this, the Assassin's Creed games ended up making close to $1 billion in revenue for Ubisoft, and therefore it became Ubisoft's franchise game. But while all of this was going on, another one of their game series became a major success, Far Cry. In 2004, the first ever Far Cry was released. It was a first-person shooter game, but the game didn't find any major success the same way Assassin's Creed did. Only till the third game was released in 2012 did the game find a major success, going from 3.4 million copies sold from the first 2 games to 10 million copies sold for Far Cry 3 alone. The game was an absolute masterpiece for its time. The graphics were amazing, the mechanics were solid, but what brought people to the game, it was the story and the characters. We had the main antagonist, Vaz.
One time is funny, 2 times is fucking annoying, no?
Who was a crazy but a charismatic person, someone you could hate but kinda like at the same time, and the story of going to an island with your friends, who then gets captured by Vaz and its people, and it's now your job to free your friends. This is what brought people to the game, a compelling story in an open world scenario. And again, Ubisoft saw the potential of this series, and in the course of 6 years, released 2 more Far Cry games, Far Cry 4 and 5, what were both masterpieces in their own right and definitely worth your time. But while all these games' main focus was single player, Ubisoft decided to make a change in 2015 and dropped one of their most iconic games until now, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. And if you haven't heard of this game, you're either a child or live under a fucking rock. Rainbow Six Siege is one of the most popular multiplayer tactical first-person shooters out there. Damn, that's a mouthful. Your main goal is to kill everyone in a random map in a 5v5 scenario where you take turns in either defending or attacking the bomb. While the game was an immediate success, a lot of bugs, glitches, unbalanced operators and hackers kept the game from growing and gaining new fans, and even being viewed as one of the buggiest games ever. And while most of these glitches are fixed now, it took a long time for Ubisoft to make Rainbow almost bug free. As of right now in 2024, some of the bugs and balancing problems are still in the game and will probably forever be there. And this should have been our first warning of Ubisoft's downfall, as a billion-dollar company cannot solve some glitches or bugs to save its life. But while this was only affecting the Siege community, it didn't have any major effect on Ubisoft, so they decided to keep on doing what worked for them, and that is single player games. In this time they released games like Watch Dogs 2, Assassin's Creed Origins, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Far Cry New Dawn and a lot more. And while most of these games were a big hit, signs of their downfall could be seen, as the games improved graphic wise and the playable maps became bigger. The story and the characters started to fade, becoming lackluster, generic, and sometimes outright boring. Let's take Far Cry New Dawn for an example, as it is the sequel to Far Cry 5, the most successful Far Cry till that point. It had one of the most interesting storylines and characters. Joseph Seed, a man who thinks he's the Messiah, and together with his family builds up a cult of followers. While you're a cop, just there to arrest him. The story is interesting, the missions are fun, and the characters are charismatic, and you cannot help yourself but to be invested in the game. Well then, you have Far Cry New Dawn, as it is set in the aftermath of the Far Cry 5 story, where you need to survive in an apocalyptic world with scarce resources and a new cult, the Highwaymen, who are controlled by the twin sisters, Mickey and Lou. They want everything for themselves and don't want to share anything with any other survivors. While the game mechanics were better than Far Cry 5, it was really the only thing, as the story wasn't great at all, but it was also not bad, it was just mid. The characters on the other hand were everything but mid. The sisters were boring and their story / character development was just lackluster. Going from Joseph Seed to the Highway Sisters was one massive downgrade, one more sign of their downfall. But in 2020 is where their downfall really began, when multiple of their employees came forward about sexual misconduct and harassment at their workplace. They said that Ubisoft was a boys club, that the executives and managers had business meetings at strip clubs, and that some of the managers apparently told the women to smile more and made grossly inappropriate comments about their bodies. And they even had colleagues who sent them explicit messages and videos of themselves. But, like this wasn't even bad enough, one of the female employees came forward and also shared that she got groped multiple times by her manager and reported it to HR multiple times, but they never did anything. After this came out, Ubisoft went into panic mode, making all the executives involved resign and writing an apology letter to the employees who were affected by it, and promising to implement changes to better protect their employees. But for some, this was not enough, as they claimed that Ubisoft knew about it, and in some cases even protected the men accused of the misconduct because of their high-profile status within the company or personal connections. They wanted to see those men go to prison. So, the police did a year-long investigation, ending up in the arrest of 5 people. All of this caused Ubisoft market value to plummet down and multiple of their employees leaving. This left Ubisoft in a very bad state and their games in a worse, as their first game to feel this hit was Watch Dogs Legion. The game had a great idea / mechanic around it, where you could turn any NPC into an ally and control them to help your cause / rebellion group. It was genuinely a great idea, but there was no need for it, as the story was boring as fuck. The open world didn't have enough interactions and the controls were awful. Going from Watch Dogs 2 to this piece of shit was a disgrace, but it was not as bad as Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Jesus fucking Christ. Talking about a disgrace to a franchise. Where do I begin? Let's start with the open world situation. Assassin's Creed has always been about stealth, parkour in a very small and dense city, but nowadays the worlds are bigger than ever before. Just take a look at how big the world is. This shit is not about stealth and parkour anymore. And this is what I mean when I said they don't listen to the community. And don't get me started on the graphics on this game. Oh my god. Tell me how the fuck we went from this?
Dead.
Well, when you don't invite me to your parties, everyone suffers.
I did try, but my father was adamant.
Your father?
Go, I'll distract them.
To this.
Is she ready?
She awaits her own special glory.
And to make matters even worse, the missions are boring as fuck. The skill tree is a mess, and the combat isn't even that exciting. The game really has only one saving grace, and that is the story, and even that could be so much better. But, to be fair, I need to give credit where credit is due. Far Cry 6 also released in this time period, and it is maybe the only good game where I can say that Ubisoft delivered. The game is not perfect, but it's also not bad. It is just an overall good game. The mechanics are heavily improved, the return of the third person view is also a very nice touch, and the charismatic characters are back. The story was decent, the main villain stole the show show and I kinda liked it. Some parts could have been way better in the story and the graphics too, but the missions were fun. Some of them did become a little bit repetitive, but like I said, the game is not perfect, just good, and finally not disappointing. But this reign ended quickly, as Ubisoft released Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege Extraction, what is a spin-off of their most popular multiplayer game, Rainbow Six Siege. It is basically the same game, but with zombies as their opponent instead of actual players. The game missions are boring and lackluster, and there is no real story. It was so clear that this was just a quick cash and grab, and they used the name of Rainbow Six Siege to get fans to buy it. What a fucking disgrace. But soon, we will see that it can get even worse, as they dropped Assassin's Creed Mirage. And again, the game was not what was promised to us. Ubisoft said that they went away from the big open world and would bring back the game series to its roots, getting everybody excited to buy the game. But when it dropped, we all of a sudden saw that it was nothing like the old games. The combat was heavily changed, the parkour was not like the old games, and the story, my god, it was boring. And then the overwhelming amount of glitches in the game, you could just feel that the game was not actually finished and they just wanted the money and quit the project. What nowadays is a Ubisoft special, as we now go into one of my final points of this Ubisoft downfall, and that is releasing unfinished games. I cannot state how sick and tired I am from seeing all these new games getting released unfinished and down the line getting fixed with updates. It is crossing the point of insanity, and one of the most perfect examples is Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Holy shit, I didn't think you could make a more boring game than this. The missions are awful, the characters are brain dead, and the combat in this game has more bugs than an ant's nest. And don't get me started on the controls. This game is a mess and one of the worst games ever. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, Ubisoft turns into prime Vince Carter, releasing Skull and Bones. The game got delayed 6 fucking times. It is one of the most delayed games ever. And guess what? When it finally released in early 2024, the game still had tens of thousands of bugs. Like, you had AI ships spawn camping you at your safe zone, you had multiple silver glitches, and the fast travel system was a mess, not working properly or sometimes not at all. It was so clear that this game was an afterthought for Ubisoft, and we fans, we can feel it. This game is absolutely horrible, and in my eyes, one of the worst games of the year. And then when you think Ubisoft is finally done with making stupid decisions, they done whipped out one of the most mental and stupid things I have ever witnessed in gaming. Paywalling story content in a single player game. Excuse me? What the fuck were they thinking? I was already pissed off when Warner Brothers put a paywall arena in Hogwarts Legacy. But this? Nah, this is too far. So for people who don't know the story, Star Wars Outlaws is Ubisoft's newest game where they tried something different. They took story missions from the game and put it behind a paywall. Yes, you heard me right. If you wanna enjoy the full story of Star Wars Outlaws, get ready to pay an extra $40 on top of the already $70 that you have to pay to get the game, just to complete the full story. It is an absolute joke. Imagine you go to the movies, pay for your ticket, and while watching the film, the owner of the movie theater comes out, pauses the movie and says, yeah, hey, pay an extra $10 or else we're skipping to the end of the film and y'all miss like 20% of the movie. You would be outraged. And that is exactly what Ubisoft is doing, but still we have idiots on Twitter defending them for this. I really fucking hope that Ubisoft will listen to the community and never do this shit again. Yeah, that comment aged like milk. Cause while I was editing this video, Ubisoft done fucked up again by redoing this shit. This time with the new Assassin's Creed. And the worst thing about it is that they didn't even drop any gameplay yet. I genuinely hope that this new Assassin's Creed flops as a motherfucker and that nobody will ever try to do this shit again. But yeah, looking back at all of this, it is so clear that Ubisoft is a shell of its former self and only doing things for money and not out of passion, mistreating their employees and not listening to the community and keep on doing their own things, expecting the fans to follow like mindless sheep and opening their wallets like we are their sugar daddies. I really hope that I can one day look back at this video and say, damn, Ubisoft really turned things around. But to be honest, I don't think we're ever going to witness that. But leaving this all behind, I hope you all enjoyed this video. So yes, could you please leave a like and subscribe. If you think I missed anything, let me know in the comments. And I hope I see you all in the next one. Peace out.